Well, it's many people's worst nightmare, being stuck in an elevator with a total stranger. That scenario has been turned into the latest play to run on the John Hirsch Mainstage at the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre, a play that's also having its world premiere. Elevate, Manaaji'idiwin first emerged from the Pimootayowin Creators Circle, which provides Indigenous playwrights and theater creators the chance to workshop and then produce their productions. This play, written by David McLeod, was directed by Herbie Barnes, who joins us in the Classic 107 studios. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us here. Well, first of all, we mentioned that this is like every claustrophobe's like worst possible scenario. Without giving too much away, what happens in this elevator?
Well, I mean, it's basically that two gentlemen get on an elevator and they discuss politics. It gets into that, but specifically First Nations and settler politics. So it becomes really interesting in this journey up on the elevator.
It's quite an exploration of power dynamics and social dynamics in that way between the two characters who get into that elevator, Jonesy and Tallahassee, I believe is their names. Is it easier or harder as a director putting these sorts of big scale conversations into a theater space when there is that sort of smaller cast, or is it easier for you to explore those kind of big dynamics with larger elements?
Ooh, that's a really good question. But I think the intimacy of the space, first of all, we're on the big John Hirsch stage, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's unbelievable to have a first-time play in that space to develop. And then it all takes place in a little intimate elevator. So William Layton, who's a brilliant designer, has sort of taken over that stage and made it intimate but still grand in a huge scale. But theater for me, I find if the story works, it doesn't matter large or small. Like a cast can be, I'm one of the shows that I direct, Tales of an Urban Indian, has traveled all over the world now. And it's a one-person show, and it's done everything from the public theater in off-Broadway to on a city bus in Japan.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's one of those things that's, So the show is sort of... The words are the important thing, I find.
The words were created, as we mentioned, within the Pimootayowin Creators Circle. Maybe you can speak a little bit to how this piece first came about within that context. I know maybe you weren't involved right off the get-go, but then you also took it over some months ago to help turn this into a production that we will now see on the John Hirsch Mainstage.
Yeah, so that's a project that MTC has developed that brings First Nations writers into the space, gives them an opportunity to work with professional writers and develop in their works, give them words, give them maybe the ability to workshop it in those things. I was given this play, I was asked to direct this play and dramaturg it about a year ago. And so then I took a turn with Dave and we've done rewriting up until like Wednesday. We sort of kind of went, okay, we gotta stop rewriting. But it's interesting as you get it and playing it, you want to change the words around. So I think it's a really important project, especially in a city like Winnipeg, where there's so many First Nation voices that they get a chance to be invited into the largest theater in this city. So,
when you first get a hold of something like this, a production that is in the sort of early stages, about to make its premiere, what are some of the things that you then look for to help to shape it? And then maybe what's different about a project when it comes out of something like the Pimootayowin Creators Circle?
Well, the first thing I look for is the message in the play. What is going to be the battle that's going on? Where does it get to in the high point? Is it told in an interesting way? And this one really had one of the things I say when I'm teaching writing is that never do a play in a car or in an elevator because you're locked in and there's not a lot of movement. And then this was handed to me and I read it. It's got a really interesting battle that was going in there. And there was a really lovely conversation that went on, and the two people are likable, which I really like as well. So that's
okay.
fun.
Maybe you can speak to some of the other unique sort of guiding forces that exist within Pimootayowin that can help to shape a project like Elevate Manaaji'idiwin that maybe don't exist in these other sort of maybe more traditional, more stereotypical theater creative spaces that you've interacted with in your career?
I think the really important thing is that the leadership is given to the First Nation community. So they're learning from each other and the voice is coming from them. So the support is through RMTC, but the voices are their own. So that is a really important aspect of it, beyond what other people tend to do, which is sort of try to manipulate First Nation voices into what is typically known as the Western theater voice. So yeah.
What are some maybe unique elements that audiences will then be able to take away from seeing Elevate as a result of this sort of shift in theater power dynamics to some degree that then takes root in this story about power dynamics?
I think that, what can they take away? I think it's just a really interesting conversation. I think after the show closes, there's going to be more conversation in the drive home, which is always really interesting. I think that's the thing that people will take away.
Okay. Well, not to put you into the car as well as into the elevator, the two places that you've said that you don't want to be in as a playwright. What kind of things are you hoping that your stereotypical RMTC audience member would be having on the way out of the exchange back to their houses?
I think the main thing is that them being able to identify where conversations can happen, where change needs to happen, and feeling like that sometimes they are in that voice, that they are speaking those words, even if it's underlying. They feel that. So it's just being aware that that we're all part of the change that has to happen. I think that's really important.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the ways in which you've been interacting with Elevate as a dramaturg and somebody who's helping to shape this as a project, but we haven't even really touched on yet your role as a director, trying to work with the people bringing this to life on stage, not just the creative forces behind the project. How does this sort of unique nature that exists within the creation of the project then change how you have to approach directing a show like this on stage?
The unique thing is that I get to be really intimate with the two performers. I'm almost in that space, allowing them to be there. I tried to make the conversation as intimate between the two performers rather than somebody from an outside voice, and just create that conversation between them and a third character that will show up that we won't speak about. You'll have to come to see the show to discover who that is. But but those two characters intimately in those, creating conversations of situations that we've been in, creating personal conversations about where we feel about these things, and getting deep into those things. Even though it might not be in the script, those conversations still go on and they live within the characters. So that's really important too.
At the end of this all, what do you think that this look at reconciliation will add to our ongoing efforts and conversations here on Treaty 1 territory? Or what kind of perspectives will this add to those efforts that maybe haven't yet seen the same sort of attention in a multifaceted issue that will have so many sort of perspectives that have yet to be explored?
I think what's really important is that those conversations have to go on. That education is really important for, I think, everybody in all of the treaty territories, that they learn the truth rather than the perspective. And in that way, we get to we get to discover who people are and what we need to overcome. Rather than the differences, we look for the sames. And in the differences, we discover ways that we can help each other.
We talked about the perspectives of that will be changed and the conversations that will be sparked amongst audience members in the cars on the way home. What do you take away from having been a part of this kind of a production into your next projects and conversations?
Wow, that's a good question. I just think the challenge, and I love taking theatrical challenges. This one was again, it's that no, don't, shouldn't do a play in an elevator, and this proved that yeah, you can. And so I'm always one that's open to exploring the impossible, and this has been that. So I hope it's a success. I hope people come out and see it for the challenges that it was, and the brilliance that it has.
Sure. Elevate Manaaji'idiwin officially opens on Thursday, April the 24th, with the preview taking place the night before, running all the way until May the 17th. Tickets and more information at RoyalMTC, I should say, .ca, RoyalMTC.ca. You can find out more information at our website as well, classic107.com, and the Classic 107 app. Director Herbie Barnes, thank you so much for joining us here in the Classic 107 studios.
Thank you for having me.